In the hushed tension of the courtroom, Lila Vance, a poised young woman in her early 20s, strode in with a faint, knowing smile curling her lip as if the charges were just a minor inconvenience. She glanced at the judge, her eyes flickering with arrogance, believing her polished facade and rehearsed tears would sway the room. But flashbacks haunted the air. The dim bedroom where her fiancé Evan lay motionless, a syringe cap discarded nearby, the scent of citrus cleaner masking the scene. She had called 911 sobbing, only to laugh softly when she thought the line was dead, whispering triumphantly to her accomplice. That laugh echoed now in evidence, her smug entrance crumbling under the weight of truth. She thought she controlled the narrative, but justice was already seated in the gavel's shadow. Why stories like this remind us that justice always finds its way, no matter how clever the deception. If you believe in accountability, subscribe now and tell us what you think below. This is how it all began, in a quiet suburban neighborhood where porch lights flickered like watchful eyes. Evan Maris was the kind of man who built his life on trust and routine, a dedicated emergency room technician in his late 20s, always the first to help others through their worst days. He had a calm smile that put people at ease, and he dreamed of starting a family in the cozy home he shared with his fiancée, Lila Vance. Lila, with her polished social media presence and magnetic charm, seemed like the perfect match at first glance. But beneath the filtered photos and engagement announcements, tensions simmered, small arguments over money, her growing debts from a failed online venture, and Evan's quiet concerns about her sudden mood shifts. That fateful night started ordinarily enough. Evan, returning from a long shift, greeting Lila with a tired hug, unaware that the evening would twist into something irreversible. As the clock ticked past midnight, the house fell silent, but not everything was as it seemed. A neighbor's camera caught a shadow moving outside, headlights dimmed, hinting at secrets crossing the threshold. Evan trusted her completely, never suspecting that trust would be his undoing. Chapter 1. The cry that slipped in that quiet suburban home, the evening unfolded with a deceptive normalcy that masked the gathering storm. Evan Maris stepped through the door after his shift at the hospital, his scrub still carrying the faint scent of antiseptic, and a reminder of the lives he helped mend every day. He was the steady type, always planning ahead, with a gentle laugh that could ease any tension. Lila Vance greeted him with a smile that seemed warm, but her eyes held a flicker of something sharper, unspoken frustrations bubbling beneath the surface. They had been engaged for months, their life together a blend of shared dreams and hidden strains, her mounting bills from a struggling online business clashing with his careful budgeting. That night, as they sat down to a simple dinner, conversation turned to their future, but Lila's responses grew clipped, her mind elsewhere. Evan didn't notice the subtle shift, the way she glanced at her phone more often, as if waiting for a signal. The house, with its neat rooms and framed photos of happier times, I felt like a stage set for an ordinary evening, yet an undercurrent of unease lingered in the air, unspoken and building. As midnight approached, the atmosphere in the home thickened with an invisible tension. Evan retired to the bedroom, exhausted from his long hours, trusting that sleep would come easily in the safety of his own space. Lila lingered in the kitchen, her movements deliberate, pulling out a glass and mixing a drink she claimed was just to help him relax. She had been researching ways to ease stress, she later said, but the truth was far more calculated. In a flashback to that critical moment, the room dimmed under the soft glow of a bedside lamp. Evan sipping the beverage without suspicion, his body soon growing heavy, his breath slowing unnaturally. Lila watched from the doorway, her expression a mask of concern that hid a colder resolve. The smart lock on the front door clicked open quietly, admitting a shadowy figure. Jonah Rusk, her old acquaintance, slipping in with items concealed in his pocket. They exchanged hushed words, ensuring everything aligned with the plan she had meticulously laid out. Evan stirred briefly, murmuring something incoherent, but the substances took hold, pulling him into an irreversible stillness. The scene was one of betrayal wrapped in familiarity, the bedroom transforming from a place of rest to a silent witness. The 911 call came shortly after, Lila's voice trembling as she dialed, painting a picture of panic and despair. "He's not waking up," she cried into the phone, her sobs echoing through the line to the operator, who listened intently, dispatching help immediately. But in those fraught seconds, as she set the phone down, believing the connection severed, a different sound escaped. A light laugh, laced with relief, followed by a murmur to Jonah. "No, I think it worked." The operator, trained to notice anomalies, flagged the open line, the system's recording capturing every nuance. Back in the home, Lila adjusted the scene, wiping surfaces with a cloth scented like fresh lemons, ensuring nothing seemed out of place. First responders arrived to find Evan unresponsive, his form still on the floor, the air heavy with an unnatural calm. Lila knelt nearby, her performance of grief convincing at first glance, but small details betrayed her. Clean hands where efforts to help should have left marks, a phone casually placed aside as if forgotten. The laugh preserved in digital eternity. I became the first crack in her carefully constructed facade. Forensic teams swept in soon after, their presence turning the home into a grid of evidence markers. The operator's log noted the suspicious audio, time-stamped precisely, correlating with the smart lock's record of entries and exits that night. Lila's arrogance shone through in subtle ways, her calm demeanor when questioned, as if the chaos around her was merely an inconvenience. Investigators noted the puncture mark on Evan's arm, inconsistent with any innocent explanation, and the neatly arranged pill bottles that screamed staging. The neighbor's camera footage added another layer, showing a car pulling up with lights dimmed, a figure darting to the door. Lila thought she had accounted for everything, her youth and charm a shield against suspicion, but the pieces were aligning against her. The laugh wasn't just a sound, it was a confession, unintended and damning, whispering of a mind that believed it could outsmart the system. As the night wore on, detectives pieced together the timeline, each clue tightening the noose of truth. Evan's family received the devastating call in the early hours, their world shattering with words no one is prepared to hear. His mother, who had left a loving voicemail just that afternoon, felt a wave of disbelief wash over her, clinging to memories of her son's kindness. The setting amplified the tragedy, a peaceful neighborhood where such events felt impossible, yet here it was, unfolding behind closed doors. Lila's background came into focus. A young woman who curated her life for appearances, and her social media filled with perfect moments that now rang hollow. The psychological insight emerged early, her ability to switch emotions like flipping a switch, from tears to composure in an instant. Prosecutors would later argue this incongruence as a sign of calculation, not grief. The open-line capture became central, enhanced by experts to isolate the laugh's timbre, matching it to Lila's voice without doubt. It was a moment of hubris, thinking the call had ended, but technology ensured it lived on. The courtroom loomed in the distance, but already the foundations of justice were being laid. Detectives reviewed the CAD logs, the uninterrupted recording proving the line never dropped. Lila's whisper to her accomplice hinted at conspiracy, a male voice responding in the background, sealing their shared secret. The inevitability built. Doorbell cameras, cell tower pings, and digital trails that no amount of planning could erase. Evan's life, dedicated to saving others, ended in a betrayal that shocked those who knew him. The operator, reflecting on the call, marked it as anomalous, her intuition sparking the investigation that would expose everything. As dawn broke over the suburb, the house stood silent, but the evidence within it spoke volumes, promising that accountability was coming. Stories like this make you wonder about the masks people wear. Would you have suspected her based on that laugh alone? The cursor on the operator's screen blinked steadily, a digital heartbeat logging the truth. She thought the line was dead, but it was very much alive, capturing the slip that would change everything. Chapter 2. The Man Who Trusted the Wrong Voice. Evan Maris was the embodiment of quiet reliability, a man whose days revolved around the rhythm of hospital shifts and small acts of kindness. In his late 20s, he trained as an emergency technician, often staying late to comfort patients or mentor new staff. Friends described him as methodical, the type who checked tire pressures before road trips and always had a backup plan. His home in the serene suburb reflected this. Organized shelves, a calendar marked with future goals, including the wedding he eagerly anticipated. Evan met Lila at a community event, drawn to her vibrant energy that contrasted his steady nature. She was younger, in her early 20s, with a flair for social media that turned everyday moments into polished stories. Their relationship blossomed quickly, all filled with weekend getaways and shared dreams of a family, but cracks formed over time. Evan's family noticed Lila's tendency to dominate conversations, her quick shifts from affection to irritation when things didn't go her way. The neighborhood itself was a picture of suburban calm, rows of similar houses with manicured lawns where neighbors waved over fences and children played until dusk. It was the kind of place where people felt secure, porch lights illuminating evening walks and community watch signs promising vigilance. Evan loved it for its predictability, a safe haven after chaotic workdays. But Lila chafed against the routine, her ambitions leaning toward something flashier, funded by ventures that often fell short. She ran a small online boutique, selling curated items. But debts piled up from unsold inventory and marketing costs. Evan supported her, even adjusting his life insurance to include her as beneficiary, a gesture of commitment she praised publicly. Privately, though, arguments simmered about finances, her impulsive spending clashing with his caution. Evan's mother voiced quiet concerns during family dinners, sensing Lila's charm felt performative, like a role she played rather than lived. Deepening the empathy, Evan's character shone in small stories from those who knew him. A colleague recalled how he once talked a frightened child through a procedure, turning fear into trust with gentle words. His sister shared memories of sibling adventures, emphasizing his protective nature. The setting amplified this loss, a home filled with mementos of their life together, yet like the engagement ring photo pinned to the fridge, now a painful reminder. Lila, by contrast, built her world on appearances, her online presence a highlight reel that masked insecurities. Psychological flags emerged, her need for control, the way she mirrored emotions to manipulate situations, turning tears on and off like a faucet. Evan's trust in her was absolute, blind to the resentments brewing over money and unmet expectations. A recent civil judgment against her boutique added pressure, making their shared finances a ticking clock. The hidden tensions culminated in subtle signs that, in hindsight, painted a clearer picture. Evan had confided in a friend about Lila's mood swings, dismissing them as stress, but they hinted at deeper issues. The neighborhood's tranquility belied the storm inside their walls, dog barks at dawn. But no one heard the quiet conflicts. Evan's family hesitated to interfere, respecting his choices, yet his mother's voicemail that day carried an undercurrent of worry. "Just checking in, hope everything's okay." It was mundane, loving, a snapshot of normalcy soon shattered. Lila framed any criticism as jealousy, positioning herself as the victim in narratives she controlled. The stakes rose with their planned home purchase, Evan's insurance changes unknowingly, fueling motives that turned love into liability. Empathy built as the story of Evan's life unfolded against the backdrop of betrayal. He was the helper, the one who believed in second chances, extending that grace to Lila without question. The suburb, with its clean sidewalks and friendly waves, seemed an unlikely stage for such deception, heightening the shock. Lila's curated life contrasted sharply, posts of couple goals that now felt like illusions. The psychological insight deepened, her obsession with image, the way slights festered into grudges. Evan's father, a quiet man, later reflected on missed signs, his grief laced with regret. The home they shared, once a symbol of promise, became a vault of secrets, its walls echoing unspoken truths. As the day of the incident dawned, normalcy held for a few more hours. Evan texted his sister about weekend plans, his words full of optimism. Lila went about her routine, but her actions carried a hidden weight, purchases of innocuous items that later proved pivotal. The neighborhood slumbered on, unaware, while tensions simmered. Would you have seen through the facade if you were in Evan's shoes? The emotional pull intensified by drawing viewers into the tragedy of misplaced trust. The cliffhanger loomed with that neighbor's doorbell camera, its lens capturing Lila's car returning at an unusual hour, headlights off, slipping into the driveway like a shadow. The footage was grainy but telling, a silent witness to movements that didn't align with her story. Evan trusted blindly, but the camera didn't, preserving a truth that would soon emerge. The porch light flickered as if sensing the disruption, while the rest of the street dreamed on peacefully. Chapter 3. A body, a script, and a phone. Left open. First responders pulled up to the house under flashing lights, the night air crisp and still, breaking the suburb's quiet with urgency. They entered to find a scene that felt oddly composed, the hallway illuminated brightly, a rug slightly askew as if shifted in haste. The faint aroma of citrus hung in the air, like someone had recently cleaned, masking any underlying traces. Evan lay near the bedroom doorway, his body still, skin pale and cooling, breaths absent. Medics noted the fixed gaze in his eyes, the unnatural posture suggesting a sudden collapse. The room held an eerie silence, broken only by the shuffle of boots and radio chatter. Lila was there, huddled on the floor, her body shaking with what appeared to be shock, repeating phrases of distress. Yet officers couldn't help but notice inconsistencies, her clothing pristine, no signs of frantic aid on her hands or sleeves. The phone lay nearby, seemingly forgotten, but its role was far from over. The dispatch log confirmed the call had remained active, capturing those extra seconds after Lila thought it ended. Technicians would later analyze the audio, isolating the laugh and the murmured words that followed, time-stamped to the exact moment. In the immediate chaos, responders focused on Evan, attempting revival measures, but it was clear too much time had passed. Lila suggested he might have taken something for stress, pointing to arranged bottles on the nightstand, their labels facing outward too neatly. A medic spotted a small mark on his neck, subtle but telling, not matching a typical fall or self-administration. The scene whispered of arrangement, the home's familiarity twisted into something clinical and wrong. Lila's performance continued as officers questioned her gently, her voice wavering with emotion, eyes downcast. She described finding him like that, insisting she had tried everything. But a seasoned responder paused, on noting her dry eyes amidst the tears she claimed, her hands steady when they should have trembled from effort. The smart lock's digital record added to the puzzle, showing entries at odd times that clashed with her account of a quiet night in. Neighbors, roused by the commotion, peered from windows, their statements later confirming unusual activity. The open-line audio became a silent accuser, its contents flagged for review, promising to bridge the gaps in her story. Forensic contradictions piled up quickly, turning the home into a map of discrepancies. The citrus scent traced to wipes used recently, surfaces gleaming unnaturally. Evan's position suggested he hadn't moved far, yet items around him appeared placed deliberately. Investigators photographed everything, from the glass in the sink to the phone's placement under a cushion, as if muffled on purpose. Lila's calm amid the questions raised flags, her answers rehearsed, avoiding specifics. The medical team whispered about possible substances, their initial checks hinting at something beyond accident. The neighbor's camera feed, pulled hastily, showed shadows that didn't belong, fueling the growing suspicion. The mini-climax built as the lead detective arrived, surveying the scene with a practiced eye. He listened to the preliminary audio snippet, his expression hardening at the laugh's incongruity. Lila, now in the living room, maintained her facade, but cracks showed in her repeated glances at the door. The body bag was prepared, the zipper's sound cutting through the tension like a final punctuation. Evan's form was removed carefully, the home emptying of its warmth. On the detective jotted notes. Affect mismatched, timeline off. Rage simmered in the air, the betrayal evident in every stage detail. Empathy surged for Evan, a man who helped others, now reduced to evidence. His family's impending grief loomed, contrasting Lila's composed demeanor. The psychological weight pressed. How could someone shift from sobs to laughter so seamlessly? Viewers might ponder, was it nerves or something darker? The investigation's wheels turned, each clue a step toward exposure. The cliffhanger echoed in the detective's notepad. Effect incongruent. As the body bag closed, the open-line laugh lingered in the system's memory, a digital ghost ready to haunt the truth-seekers. The house fell silent once more, but the evidence within it was just beginning to speak. Chapter 4. The Timeline That Wouldn't Bend. Detectives dove into the timeline with methodical precision, piecing together minutes from the 911 audio, dispatch entries, and arrival body cams. It was a puzzle of timestamps, each one unyielding, building a narrative that refused to flex to Lila's version. The CAD system logged every second, showing the call's continuity, no disconnect, despite her assumption. Smart lock data revealed door openings at 1:12 a.m. and again at 1:28 a.m., time she claimed the house was locked tight. Neighbor footage corroborated, capturing a vehicle approaching stealthily, its presence a shadow on the edge of the frame. The team cross-referenced these with cell tower pings, creating a net of facts that tightened around inconsistencies. Rage built subtly, fueled by Lila's overheard comment to a friend. "They're overreacting. It's not a big deal." Such dismissal, so soon after the loss, struck like disrespect. Digital warrants expanded the sweep, pulling data from phones, routers, and smart devices that silently chronicled the night. Lila's device showed searches and messages that didn't align with innocence, while Evan's remained mundane, focused on work schedules. Home Wi-Fi logs noted reconnections, Bluetooth signals pinging unfamiliar devices. These modern sentinels testified without bias, their records cold and irrefutable. Investigators noted how easily homes betray secrets now, every ping a breadcrumb leading back to truth. Lila's arrogance peeked through in her casual handling of questions, as if the process was beneath her. Forensics delved into toxicology early. Our flagging substances in Evan's system mismatched with his habits. As a medical professional, he was cautious, unlikely to experiment recklessly. The report highlighted sedatives and other elements, their levels precise, suggesting external administration. This clashed with Lila's story of accidental intake, building curiosity and a slow burn of anger at the deception. Audio enhancement began in a quiet lab, technicians isolating the laugh's waveform, confirming its origin from the caller's end. A background voice emerged clearer, male, familiar, adding layers to the mystery. Neighbor contributions added color, one recalling a brief exchange with Lila days prior, her demeanor unusually tense. The doorbell camera's pull revealed not just the car but a figure retreating, face obscured, but movements purposeful. It wasn't definitive, but enough to challenge her isolation claim. Detectives mapped it all on a board, lines connecting dots, the timeline bending only toward guilt. The disrespect amplified when Lila posted online subtly, a vague message about tough times, drawing sympathy while Evan's family grappled with raw loss. His mother, arriving at the sealed home, felt the invasion of tape and markers, her son's life dissected. The contrast stung, Lila's composure versus their devastation. Would you feel the same rage at such insensitivity? Physical clues intertwined with digital, a latent print on the phone case emerging under powder, not matching Evan or expected household marks. It hinted at another presence, fueling the investigation's momentum. The team pressed on, warrants stacking, each discovery a step closer to confrontation. What the micro cliffhanger landed with that print, its ridges a silent accusation. As powder dusted away illusions, the truth sharpened, revealing what tears couldn't conceal. The timeline stood firm, unbent by lies, promising more revelations ahead. Chapter 5. The House That Turned into Evidence. Evan's family converged on the home now cordoned off, yellow tape a stark barrier against their grief. His mother arrived first, legs unsteady, the reality hitting like a wave as she saw the markers dotting familiar spaces. The suburbs' calm mocked them, neighbors offering condolences from afar, while the house stood as a frozen crime scene. Inside, investigators cataloged items, each one a piece of Evan's life. His watch on the table, wallet untouched. The family waited outside, the air heavy with unspoken pain, his father staring blankly, on processing the irreversible. Lila's absence amplified the void, her role in this nightmare slowly dawning on them through whispered updates. Family voices emerged in heartbreaking snippets, Evan's sister recalling his last message. "See you soon. Love you." It was simple every day, now a treasure laced with sorrow. They shared stories of his generosity, like covering shifts for tired colleagues or helping neighbors with errands. This built empathy, painting Evan as more than a victim, a person whose loss rippled outward. The house, once warm, felt invaded, devices seized for analysis, passwords requested in the name of clarity. They complied, driven by a need for answers, though it felt like peeling back layers of their own memories. Rage spiked with news of Lila's social media post, a filtered image captioned with feigned heartbreak. Likes pouring in. Evan's cousin scrolled through it, stomach turning at the performance. Grief turned into content. It felt like a slap, her moving on publicly while they shattered privately. The contrast heightened moral anger. How could someone commodify such pain? Detectives noted it, adding to the file as behavioral evidence. The investigation's necessities intruded gently, officers explaining the process, assuring the family their cooperation built the case. It was invasive yet essential, recovering deleted data that might speak for Evan. Some called it closure, others proof of betrayal. Would you suspect quickly or give the benefit of doubt? The question hung, inviting reflection on instinct versus evidence. Returned items brought waves of emotion, Evan's mother holding his watch, its face still set to his last moment, metal cold against her skin. It was a tangible link, small but profound, amid the chaos. His father pocketed the wallet, fingers tracing worn leather, memories flooding back. As details emerged, the family learned of the recording, its contents hinted at but not detailed. Evan's mother whispered her request to hear it, steeling herself for whatever it revealed. The house, now evidence, held their history hostage, its walls echoing loss. The cliffhanger built with that whisper, the mother's resolve firm. She didn't yet know of the laugh, but intuition stirred, promising a confrontation with the truth. The evidence loomed, ready to give voice to the silenced. Chapter 6. The mask slipped in 8 seconds. The interrogation room was stark, fluorescent lights casting harsh shadows on the bolted table and plain chairs. Lila entered with a composed air, sunglasses perched atop her head, trembling slightly as if on cue. She started strong, I did what anyone would. I called for help. Detectives began softly, letting her weave her tale of discovery and panic. She described checking for a pulse, her voice steady, but when asked which hand she used, a brief pause betrayed her. A tiny crack in the armor. The room's tension built, mirrors reflecting her every shift, the tissue box untouched. Strategy shifted as detectives played the initial 911 segment, her cries filling the space. Lila nodded approvingly, as if validating her own response. Then came the pause. You realize the call didn't end, right? Her smirk flickered, quick but telling, voice sharpening. That's impossible. The transition was chilling, grief evaporating when challenged, the arrogance surfacing like a reflex. It was a spike in denial, her posture straightening, eyes narrowing at the implication. The audio bomb dropped next, the enhanced open line playing. The laugh, clear and relieved, followed by, "No, I think it worked." Lila's face tightened, then pivoted. That could be noise, not me. Detectives countered with logs proving continuity, no break in the signal. Her denial hardened, but the evidence stood firm, dismantling her control. The male voice emerged as key, tentatively matched to Jonah Rusk, a contact in her phone under a mundane label. He was no stranger, a past connection with a shady history. Investigators suspected collaboration, his voice a thread pulling the conspiracy into light. Lila's arrogance peaked, dismissing it all as coincidence. Interrogation pressed on detectives circling back to timelines, her answers growing evasive. The mask of victimhood slipped further, revealing calculation beneath. Rage built in the subtext, her lack of remorse treating the process like a game. The mini-climax crested as Lila demanded a lawyer, standing abruptly, chair scraping. She muttered disdainfully, her true colors showing. The detective watched the empty seat, the laugh now probable cause for more. The cliffhanger echoed in that mutter, the room silent but charged. The mask had slipped in those 8 seconds, and the investigation surged forward, unstoppable. Chapter 7. Devices don't grieve, they record. Forensic teams extracted data from phones, screens glowing with recovered texts and timestamps, each line a revelation. Deleted messages resurfaced like echoes. One draft reading, "If something happens, remember it was accidental." Another to Jonah, "Gloves on, bring the kit." Ambiguity lingered until context clarified, items linked to the scene. The process was visual in its precision, data streams flowing, bubbles of conversation reappearing. Rage triggered with searches like quick relaxation aids, weaponized curiosity turning sinister. Cell towers and GPS painted a damning map, Jonah's device pinging near the home for a telling duration, contradicting his alibis. Maps didn't lie, their dots aligning with lock logs and cameras. It was inevitable, technology archiving movements without mercy. Smart home devices added voices, a late-night query on sedative timing tied to Lila's profile. It was chilling, the assistant's neutral response now evidence of intent. Financial digs uncovered insurance changes and queries on claims. Motive crystallizing. Physical ties emerged, a cap in the trash, residue in a glass matching tox reports. Labs confirmed patterns, traces persisting despite efforts to clean. Store footage showed Lila buying supplies days prior, cash in hand, a glance at the camera betraying awareness. Receipts time-stamped the prelude. The micro cliffhanger hit with that receipt, a paper trail as binding as any confession. Devices recorded what humans hid, building toward justice. The night in question began with the kind of deceptive calm that often precedes a storm in lives like Evan and Lila's. Evan had just returned from his shift at the hospital, his mind still buzzing from the day's emergencies, but his home was his sanctuary. He greeted Lila with a warm embrace, not noticing how her smile didn't quite reach her eyes. or how she fidgeted with her phone as they prepared a late dinner. The house was a typical suburban haven, with photos of their engagement trip lining the walls, reminders of happier times. But beneath the surface, tensions had been building. Lila's financial struggles from her failed online business creating rifts, her resentment growing as Evan suggested, cutting back. He trusted her completely, sharing his dreams of a stable future, unaware that her thoughts were turning to desperate measures. As they talked, the conversation veered into familiar arguments about money, but Evan diffused it with his usual patience, suggesting they work on a budget together. The clock ticked on, the neighborhood outside quiet, porch lights casting soft glows on the street. As the hours slipped toward midnight, the atmosphere in the home shifted subtly. Evan felt unusually tired after drinking the beverage Lila had prepared, something she said would help him unwind after a long day. He settled into bed, his body growing heavy, breath slowing as the substances took effect. Lila watched from the doorway, her expression a blend of concern and something colder, more calculated. In a flashback to that pivotal moment, the smart lock on the front door beeped softly, admitting Jonah Rusk, her old acquaintance, who entered with a bag of items they had discussed in hushed messages. They moved quickly, ensuring Evan remained unaware, the room filled with the faint sound of their whispers. The bedroom, once a place of rest, became a stage for betrayal, the lamp's light casting long shadows on the walls. Lila adjusted a few items, making sure everything looked natural. But her mind racing through the plan she believed was foolproof. Evan stirred briefly, mumbling incoherently, but the effects deepened, pulling him into stillness. The scene was one of quiet deception, the home's familiarity masking the unfolding tragedy. The 911 call pierced the night shortly after, Lila's voice trembling as she dialed, her words pouring out in apparent panic. "He's not responding. Please send help," she sobbed to the operator, describing the scene with breathy urgency. The dispatcher guided her through questions, but Lila set the phone down, thinking the line had disconnected. That's when the laugh escaped, a light, relieved chuckle, followed by a whisper to Jonah. "I think that worked." The system's recording captured it all, the open line preserving the moment she thought was private. Back in the home, Lila composed herself, wiping surfaces with a citrus-scented cloth to erase any traces, her movements efficient and calm. First responders arrived soon, their lights flashing against the windows, finding Evan unresponsive on the floor, his skin cool, the air thick with an unnatural quiet. Lila knelt nearby, her performance of distress convincing at first, but details nagged. Her hands clean, no signs of the aid she claimed to have given. The phone, placed under a pillow, became a key piece, its captured audio the first thread of unraveling. Forensic teams arrived to process the scene, turning the home into a grid of markers and photographs. The operator's log noted the suspicious open line, time-stamped to the second, correlating with the smart lock's records of unusual entries. Lila's arrogance showed in her interactions with officers, her answers smooth but evasive, as if the chaos was a minor hiccup. Investigators spotted a small mark on Evan's arm, inconsistent with accident, and the pill bottles arranged too precisely on the nightstand. The neighbor's camera footage added weight, showing a figure approaching the house, movements purposeful in the dark. Lila believed her youth and charm would shield her, but the evidence was stacking, each clue a step toward exposure. The laugh wasn't mere sound. It was a window into her mind, a slip that technology immortalized. As the night progressed, detectives built the timeline, the pieces fitting with chilling precision. Evan's family was notified in the early hours, their world fracturing with the news. His mother, who had left a caring voicemail that afternoon, felt disbelief give way to anguish, clinging to memories of her son's compassionate nature. The suburban setting heightened the shock, a place of safety now tainted. Lila's profile emerged, a young woman who crafted her image meticulously, her social media a facade that hid controlling tendencies. Psychological insights surfaced early, her ability to switch emotions swiftly, from despair to composure. Prosecutors would later highlight this as evidence of calculation. The audio enhancement began, isolating the laugh's pitch, matching it to Lila's voice from other recordings. It was hubris assuming the call ended, but the system ensured it didn't. The courtroom awaited, but justice's foundation was already solidifying. The CAD logs confirmed the uninterrupted call, proving her assumption wrong. The whisper to Jonah hinted at partnership, his voice a clue to conspiracy. Doorbell cameras, pings, and trails formed an unassailable net. Evan's life of helping others ended in betrayal, shocking those who knew him. The operator flagged the call, her instinct igniting the probe that would reveal all. Dawn broke, the house silent, evidence speaking volumes. The micro cliffhanger lingered on the operator's screen. Call still active. The cursor blinked like a pulse, the laugh logged as the spark of truth. She thought the line was dead, but it was alive, ready to echo in halls of justice. Chapter 2. The Man Who Trusted the Wrong Voice. Evan Maris was the sort of person who anchored those around him, a late-20s emergency room technician whose days were spent in the controlled chaos of helping others. He had a steady demeanor, always double-checking details, whether it was patient charts or home safety. Their friends remembered him as the one who organized group outings, his calm smile diffusing any stress. The suburb they lived in was idyllic, clean streets, neighborly greetings, a place where people built lives on trust. Evan and Lila's home fit perfectly, with its cozy kitchen and plans for expansion. They met through mutual friends, her vibrant personality drawing him in, leading to a quick engagement filled with promise. But Lila, in her early 20s, brought a different energy, her social media savvy turning their relationship into a public story. Though privately, her ambitions clashed with his practicality. Family noticed her scorekeeping nature, small slights remembered, but Evan saw it as passion, supporting her through ups and downs. The setting amplified Evan's normalcy, a neighborhood of routine where dog walks and evening barbecues were the norm. It felt safe, far removed from drama, making the betrayal all the more jarring. Lila's life was curated, posts of couple bliss, masking debts from her boutique venture, a failed attempt at influencer status that left her financially strained. Evan adjusted his life insurance to include her, a gesture of commitment she highlighted online. Yet arguments brewed over money, her spending habits straining their budget. His mother expressed subtle worries during visits, sensing Lila's charm was too rehearsed, but Evan defended her, believing in their future. The contrast built empathy, Evan's reliability versus Lila's volatility, her youth not excusing the coldness that simmered. Stories from Evan's life deepened the connection, like how he mentored young staff at work, on sharing tips with kindness. His sister recalled childhood memories, emphasizing his protective side. The home held tokens of their bond, engagement photos now poignant reminders. Lila's psychological flags, mirroring emotions for effect, tears that vanished when convenient, hinted at deeper issues. The hidden problem was money, her debts, a civil judgment, turning their shared plans into pressure points. Evan's trust was unwavering, blind to the resentments. The family's hesitation stemmed from respect for Evan's choices, though his mother's voicemail that day carried love and subtle concern. It was ordinary, a snapshot of care soon overshadowed. Lila positioned criticism as envy, controlling the narrative. Stakes rose with their home purchase discussions, insurance changes unknowingly fueling motives. Empathy surged for Evan, on the helper betrayed in his own space. The suburb's peace contrasted the internal storm, heightening tragedy. Lila's image-obsessed world rang hollow now. Psychological insights revealed her control needs, slights festering. Evan's father reflected on missed signs, grief mixed with regret. The home, symbol of promise, became a vault of secrets. As the day unfolded, normalcy held briefly. Evan's text to his sister full of optimism, Lila's routine hiding intent. Purchases of everyday items later proved key. The neighborhood slept, unaware of brewing shadows. Would you have spotted the facade in Evan's place? The cliffhanger captured Lila's car returning oddly, headlights off, camera preserving the anomaly. The porch light flickered, sensing disruption, while the street remained oblivious. Chapter 3. A body, a script, and a phone left open. First responders arrived to a house that seemed too tidy for the chaos described, the citrus scent lingering like an attempt to reset the scene. The hallway light shone brightly, a rug slightly shifted, hinting at hurried adjustments. Evan lay near the bedroom door, unresponsive, his skin cooling, lips pale. Medics noted the stillness, pupils fixed, the room's quiet, unnatural. Lila sat on the floor, shaking, repeating, "I tried everything." Officers observed her clean sleeves, no marks from aid, her hands steady. The scene felt arranged, the home's warmth replaced by clinical detachment. The phone's role was crucial, the dispatch confirming the open line, capturing 8 extra seconds. The laugh, then words cut short, muffled as if hidden. Technicians would enhance it, but in the moment, responders focused on Evan. Revival efforts futile. Lila suggested supplements for stress, pointing to neatly lined bottles. A medic spotted a puncture mark, inconsistent with collapse. The bedroom nightstand looked staged, items too perfect. Lila's act held as she spoke to officers, voice wavering, eyes averted. But her dry cheeks and calm hands raised doubts. The smart lock logged entries clashing with her story of solitude. Neighbors, awakened, added details of unusual sounds. Contradictions mounted, citrus tracing to recent cleaning, surfaces spotless. Evan's position suggested no struggle, items placed deliberately. Photos captured the glass in the sink, phone under a pillow. The lead detective surveyed, noting incongruent effect, timeline off. The body bag's zipper echoed, sealing the moment. Rage built at the staging, the laugh a digital witness. Or empathy for Evan, the caregiver, now evidence. Family grief loomed, contrasting Lila's composure. Was it shock or calculation? The cliffhanger echoed in the notepad, effect incongruent, the zipper closed, the laugh preserved, ready to resound. Chapter 4. The timeline that wouldn't bend. Detectives constructed the timeline meticulously, integrating 911 audio, CAD logs, body cam footage, and lock data. Each timestamp was unyielding, exposing gaps in Lila's account. The call's continuity proved no disconnect, her laugh captured in real time. Lock entries at odd hours contradicted her isolation claim. Neighbor cameras showed a vehicle, figure retreating, building the net. Rage simmered with Lila's comment to a friend. "They're making too much of it," dismissiveness stinging. Digital warrants revealed phone data, deleted texts, location history. The homes betrayed secrets through Wi-Fi, Bluetooth pings. Lila's arrogance showed in evasive answers, as if above scrutiny. Toxicology flagged mismatched substances, Evan's caution making accident unlikely. Audio enhancement isolated the laugh, background voice adding mystery. Neighbor statements confirmed activity, camera pull proving presence. Maps connected dots, inevitable and cold. Disrespect peaked with Lila's online post, sympathy-seeking while family grieved. Contrast fueled anger, performance versus pain. Latent print on the phone case emerged, not Evan's, hinting at another. The micro cliffhanger was the print, powder revealing hidden truths. The timeline held firm, lies crumbling. Chapter 5. The house that turned into evidence. Evan's family faced the sealed home, tape barring entry, grief compounding. His mother collapsed at the sight, father silent. The neighborhood's calm mocked their pain, house now a crime site. Items cataloged, watch, wallet, links to Evan. Family stories emerged, sisters' recall of his last text, full of love. They shared his kindness, mentoring at work. This built empathy, Evan as person, loss rippling. Rage spiked with Lila's post, grief monetized. Cousin felt sick at the display, moral anger rising. Investigation required devices, passwords, invasive but necessary for truth. Closure or proof? Would you suspect swiftly? Returned items, mother holding watch, cold metal a reminder. Family learned of recording, mother requesting to hear it, resolve building. The cliffhanger was her whisper, intuition stirring, evidence ready to speak. Chapter 6. The mask slipped in 8 seconds. Interrogation room stark. Lila entering composed, starting with, "I did everything right." Detectives let her talk, hesitation on details betraying her. Played crying segment, she nodded. Then, call didn't end? Smirk, denial spiking, arrogance showing. Audio played, laugh hitting, her pivot failing against logs. Voice linked to Jonah, conspiracy emerging. Arrogance peaked, remorse absent. Pressed on timeline, mask slipping, rage in subtext. She demanded lawyer, muttering disdain. The cliffhanger was the empty chair, laugh as cause. Chapter 7. Devices don't grieve, they record. The forensic montage began in a sterile lab where technicians hooked up Lila's phone to extraction tools, screens filling with lines of code and recovered data. Deleted texts resurfaced like ghosts from the digital ether. One draft message reading, "If anything happens," and it was an accident, unsent but telling. Another chain to Jonah, "Wear gloves, bring the strip." The ambiguity was deliberate, later clarified as references to items used in the plan, but in the moment it built a narrative of premeditation. The process was meticulous, hex strings and timestamps scrolling by, message bubbles popping back into existence as if time itself was rewinding. Investigators watched, their faces illuminated by the glow, each discovery a quiet victory against deception. Rage triggered subtly here, in the cold curiosity of searches like, how long does sedative take to work, turning everyday technology into a tool of harm? The phone didn't grieve, it simply recorded, preserving the truth without emotion or bias. Cell tower data and GPS logs painted an unassailable picture, mapping Jonah's movements with clinical precision. His phone pinged near the subdivision for exactly 23 minutes, a duration that aligned perfectly with the smart lock's entries. He claimed to be elsewhere, but the digital map contradicted him, dots connecting like stars in a constellation of guilt. This evidence was inevitable, the kind that no alibi could bend. Towers standing silent sentinels over the city, archiving locations without judgment. Detectives cross-referenced it with convenient store footage, showing Jonah using his phone's payment app at a time he swore it was lost. The layers built curiosity and a slow-building anger, the arrogance of thinking one could outrun such trails now exposed. Devices didn't forget. They etched every step into permanent records, turning fleeting moments into enduring proof. Smart Home logs added another dimension, revealing voice assistant queries from Lila's account just before midnight. How long does this relaxation aid last? The neutral response from the device now stood as damning testimony, a casual question laced with intent. It tied directly to the toxicology findings, the timing too perfect to be coincidence. Rage spiked at this point, the transformation of helpful tech into something sinister, a home's own systems betraying its occupants. Investigators noted other logs, motion sensors triggering in the hallway, Wi-Fi reconnections suggesting an extra device present. These details wove into the larger tapestry, each one a thread strengthening the case. The emotional weight pressed, reminding viewers of how modern life leaves traces everywhere, often unwittingly. Financial motives emerged from the data dive, with recent updates to Evan's life insurance policy and Lila's searches for contesting claims after loss. Online history showed queries about undetectable methods and screening times, each one a breadcrumb leading to calculation. This wasn't impulse, it was planned, the digital footprint as clear as footprints in snow. Prosecutors would later use these as pillars, but in the lab it fueled a sense of exposure, the hidden becoming visible. Would you search such things innocently, or does it scream intent? The question invited reflection, looping back to the psychology of deception. Physical evidence linked seamlessly to the digital, a syringe cap discovered in the bathroom trash, buried under wipes, but not deep enough. A lab analysis confirmed trace residues matching the substances in Evan's system, the patterns indicating administration rather than ingestion. A glass in the sink held similar traces, fibers from cleaning cloths clinging stubbornly. Despite efforts to sanitize, microevidence persisted, a testament to forensic persistence. The montage built to this convergence, physical and digital, merging into irrefutable proof. Store surveillance footage provided the prelude, showing Lila purchasing a prepaid card and supplies days earlier, paying in cash but glancing at the camera as if aware of its gaze. The receipt, time-stamped and recovered, landed like a signature, tying her to the items used. It was a small detail but pivotal, the kind that closes loops in investigations. The micro cliffhanger hovered on that receipt, its printed details a final nail in the coffin of doubt. As technicians logged the last file, the evidence stood complete, devices having recorded what human memory might deny. The net was tightening, justice inching closer with every bite. Chapter 8. The Net Tightens. Jonah Rusk's interview started with false bravado, him joking with officers as if the summons was a mix-up, his laughter echoing in the sterile room. He arrived cocky, slouching in the chair, dismissing questions with casual waves. Detectives let him talk, building the contradiction stack methodically. He claimed no recent contact with Lila, but messages shown on screen, time-stamped exchanges, shattered that lie. His excuse shifted to a stolen phone, but store camera footage countered, capturing his face using the device for a purchase. The arrogance fueled rage. She treating a serious matter like a game, his demeanor a stark contrast to the gravity of Evan's loss. Moral anger built here, the disrespect palpable in his flippant responses. License plate readers added unforgiving proof, logging Jonah's car entering the neighborhood at 1:05 a.m., a detail he tried to laugh off as coincidence. Detectives didn't join in, their stares steady, the evidence piling like weights on his story. This was forensic inevitability, systems designed to capture without bias, turning highways into archives. The net tightened, each piece interlocking, exposing the conspiracy's edges. Lila's plan wasn't just a solo act, it involved this accomplice, his involvement now undeniable. The moral turn deepened as investigators realized Lila's strategy extended to audience manipulation. Assuming tears and performance would suffice. Her mistake was underestimating the evidence, but more so, it was the contempt shown toward the system and Evan's memory. Empathy cut away to Evan's father at the hospital, cleaning out his locker, colleagues standing in silent tribute, a stethoscope left hanging like an unanswered call. The scene grounded the story in loss, contrasting Jonah's cavalier attitude. Arrest warrants were drafted in a quiet office, prosecutors reviewing the audio, text, GPS, toxicology, and cameras. It was the system at work, slow, deliberate, built on proof rather than emotion. The open-line laugh played again, its sound a recurring motif, anchoring the case in behavioral truth. Suspect pressure mounted, Jonah's jokes fading as contradictions mounted, his face paling under the lights. Lila, meanwhile, He maintained her facade, but whispers of the gathering storm reached her. The cliffhanger echoed as detectives knocked on Lila's door, her opening it in a robe, confusion feigned. Cuffs clicked, her eyes searching for an escape, still thinking it was all a show. Chapter 9. The Smirk Meets the Bench. The courtroom buzzed with anticipation for the first appearance, gallery packed, Evan's family in front, their faces etched with resolve. Lila entered styled impeccably, soft sweater suggesting innocence, scanning the room like assessing an audience. The judge's bench loomed, authority palpable as charges were read: murder, conspiracy, tampering, false report. The room hushed, papers shuffling, the word guilty plea hanging unanswered. No bond requested, the prosecutor's voice steady, outlining the gravity. And the judge's words carried weight. These are serious allegations. The court will ensure a fair process. It set the tone, law's machinery in motion. Lila rolled her eyes at mention of Evan's family, cameras catching the disrespect, virality brewing in that moment of arrogance. Prosecution previewed recorded evidence from the call, Lila stiffening, the laugh's shadow already present. Defense countered with tragic mishap, hinting at speculation. Engagement wove in. Was it grief or tactic? Would you trust tears without backup? The mini-climax escalated with the judge's warnings on intimidation, gavel striking. Lila whispered to Jonah, smile thinning as reality bit. The cliffhanger was the gavel's echo, while Lila's smirk faded, the bench unyielding. Chapter 10. Pretrial Warfare. Defense motions flew to suppress the audio, calling it unreliable, but prosecution countered with custody chains and logs. The battle was legal chess, each move calculated. Jail calls captured Lila's code speak, complaining about Evan's mother, narcissism, framing grief as rivalry. Witness pressure surfaced, messages to a friend warning against testifying, adding intimidation charges. Audio experts testified on waveforms matching Lila's voice, credible and clear. Prosecutors built the narrative of staged deception, the laugh as guilt's window. Empathy scene, Evan's sister drafting impact statement, hands shaking at past tense. The cliffhanger was the judge ruling audio admissible, defense tense, exhibit a marked. Chapter 11. Trial opens. Jury selection focused on audio handling, prosecutors seeking discerning minds, defense skeptical ones. The psychological war was on interpretation of tone. Prosecution opening framed Evan killed twice, by act and erasure, evidence to speak. Defense hinted at tragedy, self-medication, planting doubt. First witness, the operator, described the laugh's anomaly, credibility strong. Judge instructed on evidence, law heavy in the air. Emotional trigger, Evan's mother mouthing thanks, someone valuing his final moments. The cliffhanger was prosecutor's promise. Tomorrow, the full call. Jurors left weighted with curiosity. Chapter 12. Play the tape courtroom silent as prosecutor readied the audio, room's hum fading. The crying played, sobs evoking sympathy, jurors leaning in. Then open line, laugh splashing cold, flinches in the gallery, Evan's mother gasping. Prosecutor anchored, relief sound. Log showed continuity. Defense claimed artifact. Our expert countered with profiles. Male voice identified as Jonah's. Conspiracy solid. The cliffhanger was judge's instruction. Lila's fear showing. Smirk gone as speakers silenced. Chapter 13. The Science of Guilt medical examiner detailed lethal mix, inconsistent with accident, clinical, and precise. Timeline aligned searches with events, graphic dots connecting. Defense suggested self-use, countered by Evan's training. Physical evidence, cap, residue, traces persisting. Rage at searches like undetectable methods, premeditation clear. Colleague testified on Evan's character, normal life interrupted. The cliffhanger was not done with her phone, report waiting. Chapter 14. Closing arguments. Prosecution closed on 8 seconds. Cries for help, laugh for victory, stitching evidence. Defense humanized, arguing trauma, system bias. A judge instructed on proof, courtroom ritual heavy. Deliberation hours, family in hallway, hope fragile. Discussion, would laugh convict alone. Verdict announced, doors opening, air electric. The cliffhanger was jury entering, papers ready. Chapter 15. The gavel answers the laugh verdict, guilty on all, clerk's voice drumming. Evan's sister sobbed relief. Lila's face cycled to rage, no tears, mask cracking. Jonah convicted similarly, Towers archiving his fate. Impact statements. Mother, stage of his last moments. Father, we hear the laugh forever. Judge, deception's window, sentencing life plus. Closure, memorial, grave visit, house renewed, audio archived. Stories like this show justice prevails. If served, share. She thought the line dead until law replayed it.